الرحيم. عطوفة راعي الحفل أمين عام وزارة العمل السيد حمادة أبو نجمة، أصحاب السعادة السيدات والسادة ضيوف الأردن الكرام، اسمحوا لي في البداية أن أرحب بكم في بلدكم الثاني الأردن الذي تم اختياره لتنفيذ فعاليات الحوار الإقليمي حول أفضل الممارسات لحماية ضحايا الاتجار بالبشر من قبل اللجنة المنظمة. وقد وقع الاختيار على منطقة البحر الميت تحديداً في محاولة منا للحرص على راحتكم وعلى أن تستمتعوا بهذه الأجواء اللطيفة في سبيل أن نحصل منكم على أفضل ما لديكم من رؤى وتطلعات وأفكار حول أفضل الممارسات في حماية ضحايا الاتجار بالبشر. هذا الحوار يهدف إلى تبادل أفضل الممارسات والخبرات المتعلقة بالحماية بين المشاركين وبين مختلف الدول، وتحديد الإجراءات الرئيسية لتطوير أطر الحماية الخاصة بكل دولة. حول نبذة عن هذا المشروع، اسمحوا لي أن أقدم مديرة المشروع الإقليمي الآنسة آنا نور فتريانا لإعطاء ملخص موجز عن المشروع. تفضلي آنا.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, sabah khair, kifkum. I won't take much of your time for explaining about the project, but I would like to thank you everyone for coming today. We're going to be discussing a very important topic, and it would be depending upon your wealth of experiences. So these 3 days will be about information sharing, challenges sharing, and also discussions about some of the issues that you identified. So these projects protect and assist vulnerable and exploited migrant workers in the Middle East and North Africa. It's a 2-year project funded by the European Union. And the reason why we're doing this is to contribute to the protections of migrant workers in the Middle East and North Africa. And we have a pilot, this is a pilot project, and we're targeting 5 countries, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and for the Middle East, and Egypt for the North Africa. Specifically, this project is aimed to strengthen the capacities of government and civil society actors in Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Lebanon to assist the most vulnerable and exploited migrant workers, to empower migrant workers with a better protections and appreciation of their rights, and to reduce the incidence of xenophobia towards exclusions of and discriminations against migrant workers. So the key activity of the project will include 2 regional dialogue, one of which why we are here now, 1 study visit to European country, and we can also discuss about what we want to learn from that country today, these 3 days. We have country workshops for government frontline officers, country trainings for civil society organizations, direct assistance to 150 exploited and trafficked migrants, 1 regional awareness raising materials, and 50 community awareness raising sessions with diaspora community. And all these activities will be based on the assessments that we conduct through consultations with you, with the other stakeholders, desk reviews, and other observations. Some updates that I would like to share. We have on the capacity building component, we have provided training on victims' identifications. This is the first step towards victims' protections. Up to now, we have conducted 3 training sessions for general security officers in Lebanon, training for 14 embassies representative in Lebanon and also in Egypt, 5 training sessions for civil societies in Egypt, Lebanon, Iraq, and Jordan for a total 94 participants from civil society groups dealing with migrant workers were trained on victim identifications. The output of this training is to increase referral of victims to potential available services in your country. Some of the testimonies that we received from the participants Through this training, we are able to identify a trafficking situation according to our national trafficking law, but we still need to have guidelines to allow us referring victims for assistance. So this is from the detention officer that we trained in Lebanon. The training allowed us to understand how we can better coordinate with host government to ensure the protections of victims. This is a testimony from a labor attaché that we targeted at one of the trainings. We used to interview vulnerable persons facing abuses and exploitations, but we never thought that their situation might be a case of trafficking, where a specialized care is needed for victims. And this is the testimony from civil society organizations. So as you know, that the victim identification is very important to ensure that victims are properly provided with protections. And this is exactly the idea of this meeting, to discuss on that. Some updates on numbers of victims that we have assisted so far under the PAVE project. We have 62 victims assisted since July 2013 till May 2014. This is not 2,914. Sorry about the typo. And we have the referring entities. We have assisted victims from referral from the detention center in Lebanon, victims' friend, embassy, and also in Egypt, I think. Embassy and also civil society organizations. They have referred us cases. Some of the profiles that of the victims that we identified, as you could see, it's vary. African countries and Asian. We have one Jordanian, though, also assisted under this project. Gender breakdown. Still, women are the most vulnerable group to trafficking, although we have some men also identified within the project. The type of exploitations and means of controls used by the traffickers or exploiters are, as you could see, deceptions, physical abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, removal of documents, withholding of wages, substandard living conditions, and the type of exploitations that we identified includes forced labor. We'll discuss more on that as well today. And here are the consequences faced by the victims that we identified. Traumatized or depressed, and then suicidal, and diabetic, other forms of medical concerns. So what do we do after? We provided them with the assistance, such as assisted voluntary return, recovery, and reintegrations. And up to now, we're still, some of the victims are still active in their reintegrations plan. So this is the testimonies that we got from victims. I felt my life would end there, and IOM support gave me hope. I believe that I can decide for my future. And as you could see, the small thing that we do could mean a lot for the victims. And we also received a testimony from the Ministry of Social Affairs, who is actively also in providing technical guidance for the civil society organizations. I really appreciate that initiative that IOM took by putting in place a case conference practice to handle a complicated case of victim of trafficking. It allows us to discuss how multidisciplinary actors can contribute to discussing best interest determination for victims and their child, so we can harmonize our efforts. This is when IOM this is when General Security, Ministry of Social Affairs, Embassy, and also medical doctors sit down together to decide a very complicated case that we identified, which was a suicidal ideation from a victim. Actually, the victim was horribly affected mentally and physically, so it would require a different perspective from multidisciplinary personnel to decide what is best for the victims and the child. Some of the update on the awareness raisings that we're doing in this project, we have a regional awareness raising strategy, one module for media workshop, because we think that media is one of the important stakeholders to engage on raising awareness. Awareness raising at the moment is being designed. Just to give you a strategy, or what we call PAVE cycle. So, yes, okay. So in this project, we aim to increase the capacity of individual and institutional, and also societal. So if you could see from the slide that at the beginning of the project, we try to identify the challenges by communicating with you, with the governments, primarily, the civil society, and also the migrants workers, to identify what is the challenge in victim assistance. And after that, we conducted the victim identification trainings for the first responders. And as a result of that, numbers of victims are increased through the referrals, and we provide the direct assistance component. And the regional dialogue is that what we're doing right now is basically to learn from you on what you have experienced in terms of prosecuting cases of trafficking, and also from assisting victims of trafficking. And your experiences will be used to inform what kind of workshops or trainings that we need to provide in country level to ensure that protections is provided. So this regional dialogue is very instrumental, because we will learn from your experience, since everyone here already has the anti-trafficking law, and it will be good for us to reflect as well from your experience and how it works in the field. And your experience will be used to inform what kind of topics that we need to provide as a capacity development of frontline officers, for example, in country level. So, and study visit will enhance also our knowledge on the good practice of providing victim assistance.